So here is everything that you're going to need for the jumper. So I'm using about approximately 450 to 500 grams of double knit yarn, and that is for kind of an oversized size medium, and this is kind of all I have left of it. I had a lot more, which I will insert a clip of the full bag of wool. But I got this from a charity shop. I got this from the Essex and Herts Air Ambulance shop, and they basically do like these pre-packed balls of yarn, a mixture of colours, kind of all in the same colour scheme. And I saw it and I thought this is perfect for a video idea, kind of basing a project around a colour scheme. And they did this bag for £5, so I didn't end up using all of it, which just goes to show, you know, how much was in there. But I think I used about 450 to 500 grams of yarn. So you're also going to need a sewing needle, some stitch markers. I'm using about 4, some scissors and a 4.5mm hook and some measuring tape. I also got another bag of yarn, and it is all like red themed. So if you'd like to see me make a project based around this colour scheme, then comment down below. I'm going to link down below the Air Ambulance charity in case you guys wanted to check that out. I think it's always nice to support your local charities, and also you can pick up some really good yarn in the charity shops, and I feel like not enough people know that a lot of charity shops have wool, so please check out your local charity shops if you like to crochet or knit, because they always have some pretty good balls of yarn, and like they're normally about £1 each, or maybe even less. So yeah, I thought I would mention that. So I've just taken my waist measurement, which was about 28 inches, and then to get the front and back panel measurement I divided that by 2, so that's 14. 14 inches is the measurement if I wanted the jumper to be like skin tight, but because I wanted this to be slightly more oversized, I'm adding a few more inches. So I'm going to add about 4.5 inches, so that gives me 18.5 inches for the front panel and back panel. So altogether that is about 37 inches, I believe. Basically, you just want to take your waist measurement, divide it by 2, and then add about 4.5 inches if you want a slightly more oversized. But yeah, like hold it up against you and see if you like that fit. Add or take away more inches depending on your preference. So I'm going to start with the front panel. The front panel and the back panel will both be exactly the same anyway, but I'm basically going to start with a chain that is going to fit the measurement that I want, so 18.5 inches. So I'm just going to start by chaining, and then I'm going to place it against the measuring tape to just kind of see if it works or not. And remember that depending on your tension, your work might shrink a bit if by the time that you've done your first row, so you might want to do a little bit more chaining after your actual measurement that you want, to ensure that when it does shrink, it actually is still the measurement you want. So I'm just going to line it up here and see how long my chains are. So I need way more than this, so I'm just going to keep chaining. Okay, so this chain is about 18.5 inches, and that was, so I have about 70 chains, and I'm going to add an extra 4 chains just to allow for when I do my first row if it shrinks. So I'm going to add 4 more, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, and that is just about an inch more than I need, so hopefully when I actually do the chain, crochet down the chain, it will shrink a bit and get to the right measurement that I want. So I'm going to start my first row by making a double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook into the second chain. So this is the first, this is the second. So I'm just inserting it like that. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the stitch of the chain. You should have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and that is your double crochet. So I'm going to repeat that all the way across the row now. Yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So rewind that if you need more help with the double crochet, and you can always put it in a slower speed so that you can kind of see it a bit better. So I'm going to do a double crochet all the way down to the end of the chain, and then I'm going to meet you back right before the very last chain, because we're actually going to change colours here. Okay, so I'm at my very last chain that I need to make that double crochet into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my new colour. This could be any colour, doesn't matter, and I'm just going to have my slip knot ready. And then I'm going to set it aside, and we're going to complete the last double crochet. But this one's going to be slightly different. We're going to not finish the double crochet in the traditional way. So we're going to yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, as we normally would, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and this is where we do something different. So we're going to drop the original colour, we're going to pick up the new colour, okay, and we are going to pull through the 2 loops with our new colour, like this. Okay, we're now going to start the next row, and traditionally you would maybe chain 2, chain 3 for a double crochet, but I actually prefer just to turn the work and start the double crochet because I think that it creates a bit of a neater edge. So what I'm going to do is just turn the work the other way, and I'm going to start my first double crochet, yarning over. I'm going to pick up the yarn tails, well, I'm going to leave the short one, but I'm going to pick up the first one, and then I'm going to insert the hook into the stitch that we just made that double crochet into, and then yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, see how you get a bit more of a straight edge? I just prefer it. So now I'm going to complete a double crochet into each stitch all the way along. I'm going to weave in these ends a little bit before I cut them, and then I am going to make another colour change at the end, but I will meet you back at the end of the row where we will make our second colour change. I also thought I would just show you what to do when you've cut your original colour, because you don't need it anymore for that row. You can just cut the yarn, and then what I like to do is, now we're working on the inside of the work, I just like to tuck one of the ends, or the end if you're using, if you're not doubling up on your yarn, and I'm just going to loop one through this stitch at the back and then kind of like tie a double knot or like a triple knot until I think that it's secure. And then with a sewing needle, you could just cut it here, but if you want to make sure that it's still secure, you can kind of sew in the end with a sewing needle, just to kind of make it more secure, like that, and then you can cut it and then it's all hidden away neatly like this. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to meet you back at the very last stitch, and then we will make that colour change again. Okay, so I am on my last stitch of the row, so I'm going to grab my new colour, make a slip knot, and then I'm going to complete the next double crochet with the new colour. So I'm starting the double crochet like this, 2 loops on the hook, and then I'm going to attach the new colour and finish the double crochet with the new colour, and then just turn the work and start the next double crochet, weaving these ends in as well into that same stitch. So I'm going to now complete another row of double crochet, and then again same process where I'm going to cut kind of a few stitches in and then weave that end in as I go. And then I'm going to continue doing rows and rows of this until the panel reaches about the top of my shoulder. I'm going to put up on screen how long I did the panel, because I don't want this to be too long, but I also don't want it to be cropped. I just kind of want it to be like a normal length jumper. But yeah, you're going to want to make sure that when you're taking your measurement of how long you want it, that it always starts from the top of the shoulder down, so that you know that it's, you know, not going to be too long, too short. So yeah, I'm going to come back when I have completed this panel. So I've just finished my 17 inches of rows of double crochet. I ended up doing 35 rows, and I'm now going to do my 36th row. So I'm just going to finish the last stitch of row 35 and then change to the original colour that I started with. Okay, so last stitch, and I'm going to change colour. So just making the slip knot. And then joining it there. So we're now going to start row 36, and from this point onwards we're going to be focusing on the scoop part of the neckline. So if you want your neckline to be closer towards your neck, then you will continue making double crochets until you are happy with the thickness of the neckline. If you want a much more open neckline, for example like where your collarbones show a bit more, then you could only double crochet like kind of to here. So basically the closer in that you make your double crochet for this row, the tighter your the neckline will be. So I measured mine, and I wanted the neckline to kind of stop at about 6.5 inches, which was about 23 stitches in from the edge. So that's just what I'm doing, but you can always change this if you prefer. So I'm going to start by turning the work, and I'm going to make 22 double crochets, and then on the 23rd we're going to do something a bit different. So just to make it easier, I'm going to weave these ends in afterwards, so that I can just show you straight away what to do. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm just going to leave these tails now so I can weave them in later. And 22. So at this point I'm actually going to grab my new colour. So the colour after that was the dark brown, so I'm going to grab dark brown. I'm going to make a slip knot, get that ready, because we're still going to make the colour change, but we're going to do a decrease first and then change colour when we yarn over and pull through all of the loops. So set your next colour aside for the minute. So I'm going to make a double crochet decrease. So I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch as normal, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so normally in here we would yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the double crochet, but instead we are going to start the next one. So yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and now you have 3 loops on the hook. We are now going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, but we are going to yarn over with our new colour. So instead of the yarn over, it's basically just attaching the slip knot to the hook, and then we pull through all 3 loops with the new colour. Okay, so that is what the decrease is. So I'm now going to turn the work. Make sure that all your ends are now going to the other side. We're going to do another decrease, and then we're going to double crochet across the row. So I'm starting my first double crochet decrease, yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then into the next stitch. Repeat this, yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then I'm just going to make a double crochet into each stitch as normal, so no decreases. So we've now reached the very last double crochet, so I'm going to start the double crochet and then grab my new colour, which is going to be the orange, make a slip knot and attach it to the hook, and then I'm going to pull through those last 2 loops with the orange. So now I'm going to repeat the same thing one more time. So this is now the 38th row. This is the final row of the front panel. I'm going to make a double crochet into each stitch, and then when I reach the very last 2 stitches I'm going to make that decrease, so I will meet you back when I make that decrease. So I'm now at my very last 2 stitches, so I'm going to make the decrease. So I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And there you have your decrease. And as you can see, by decreasing in this way we create a nice straight edge that kind of scoops down quite neatly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the yarn on this side with a slip knot, and then I'm going to make the next so now I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and I'm going to weave all of these ends in a second. I just wanted to kind of show you exactly how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the work back onto the right side, and I'm going to repeat the exact same sequence as we did there, attaching the first colour, the second colour and then the third colour each row that you go. So I'm going to attach the first colour in this corner with a slip knot, and then I make a double crochet into the next 22 stitches across, and then in the 23rd create that decrease, and then after during that decrease you want to add your second colour, turn the work, make a decrease, double crochet along, at the final stitch make the colour change again, and then turn the work, make a double crochet along, and then into the final 2 stitches make that decrease again, and then you just fasten off. So it's basically mirroring exactly what you did here on this side, except it is in the center now. So I will come back when I have finished this section, and then once you have finished both of the shoulder parts here, you're going to want to basically repeat this entire panel again with the shoulder parts here, because that is also the back panel. So you're basically just making 2 of these. So I've just finished the second panel, so the back panel, and now we're going to move on to the sleeves. So I'm just going to set this aside, but as you can see I have done all of my rows, I've done the collar kind of shoulder section, and yeah, so we're now going to move on to the sleeves. So for the sleeves I'm basically going to be doing like the same kind of stripes all the way up. But I did run out of some colours, so it probably won't be like the exact same stripe sequence that I did, but again this is more of just like a scrap style jumper, so it's kind of a bit more imperfect anyway. So you're going to want to grab your measuring tape, and you're just going to want to measure around your arm to get the tight measurement, and mine was about 10 inches, and then I just loosened the tape measure around my arm until it was comfortable enough to kind of like replicate a sleeve. So I was quite happy with 14 inches around my arm. That was a like kind of loose, more oversized fit sleeve. So I'm going to be making a chain that is long enough for 14 inches, and then I will come back and we will start on the sleeve pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to make a slip knot, same as before, and then I'm going to just make a chain that is long enough for 14 inches. Okay, so I've done 55 chains and that is approximately 14 inches, so I'm going to add another like 3 or 4 chains to make sure that that allows for when my tension tightens in the first row, because it's going to shrink. So I'm going to add 4 more chains, 2, 3, 4, so that's 59 chains. So obviously it's a little bit bigger now, but it will shrink. So I'm going to do the exact same thing as before. I'm just going to make a double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So just as a reminder, yarn over, insert the hook into the second chain, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Okay, so I'm going to continue that all the way across, 1 double crochet into each chain all the way, and then I will meet you back at the very last chain. Just before it and then we will change colour. Okay, so now I'm going to be changing colour, so I'm just making a slip knot, and then I'm going to do the last stitch and finish the stitch with a new colour. Okay, adding the new colour, and then I'm going to start my new row by turning the work and then looping those tails in, then making the double crochet all the way along, like so, just 1 into each stitch. So it's basically the same pattern when we were doing just rows and rows and rows of double crochet for the front and back panel. It's the same sort of thing, and you're just going to want to continue that until the length of it is proportional to from the top of your shoulder to about your elbow. So for me, the top of my shoulder to my elbow is about 10 inches. So I'm basically going to do rows and rows and rows of double crochet until the work reaches about 10 inches, and then I'm going to stop, and then at that point we're actually going to be decreasing, so we're going to be bringing the work inwards because our arm tends to be thinner here from the top of our arm, so we basically want the sleeve to kind of look like it's fitting the arm properly, and we're going to be decreasing right up until sort of about here, so a few inches from the wrist, because that's going to be left for the cuff. So I will come back once I have my 10 inches worth rows of double crochet, and I'll put up on screen how many rows I ended up doing, and then I will come back and we'll start decreasing for the elbow to wrist portion. So I've now finished 15 rows, and that allowed the panel to reach my elbow. So from this point forward we are going to be alternating between a decrease row and then just a normal row of double crochet into each stitch, and then after that a decrease row, a normal row, a decrease row, until we reach about sort of 2 inches from the wrist, because we want to save a little bit of space for the cuff. So for the decrease row, I'm just going to finish my last 2 stitches of the 15th row that I did. Obviously it might be a different number for you if you have like a longer arm or you wanted shorter sleeves or whatever. So I'm going to grab my new colour, I'm going to make a slip knot with the new colour. We're going to finish the last stitch as normal with the new colour, and then I'm going to start the next row, which is the decrease row. So for me, row 16 will be a decrease row. Like I said, this number might be different for you. Okay, so I'm going to basically make a decrease stitch into the first stitch, and then a decrease stitch in roughly the middle part of the panel, and then a decrease stitch at the end. So in total, for a decrease row, you will be removing 3 stitches from the row. So just as a reminder, I have 58 stitches in my row, so by the time I finish the decrease row I will have 55 stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, just pick up those tails because we're going to weave them in, and start the double crochet into the first stitch like that, leaving 2 loops on the hook, and then I'm going to yarn over again into the next stitch start the double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, and then you should have 3 loops on the hook, and we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops to make that decrease. So now I'm just going to double crochet, make 1 double crochet into each stitch until I reach roughly the middle, and then I'm going to make another decrease. So I've reached roughly the middle of the panel, so I'm just going to now make my next decrease. So yarning over, insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 3. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue to make 1 double crochet into each stitch until I have my very last 2 stitches. So I will meet you back when I have 2 stitches left of the row. Okay, so I have my last 2 stitches left. I'm going to get my new colour ready for the colour change. So I'm going to start my decrease. So I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to yarn over, insert the hook into the next stitch, into the last stitch of the row, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and now 3 loops on the hook. And now I'm going to attach my new colour. I'm going to place it on the hook, and I'm going to pull through all 3 loops with the new colour to finish the decrease. So for the next row of the sleeve, which for me is row 17, it's just going to be a normal row of double crochet, so just 1 double crochet into each stitch. And then once I reach the end, I'm going to change colour, and then for the 18th row I will make a decrease row, so I will do a decrease stitch at either end and also 1 in the middle. And again, it doesn't have to be exact where you do the decrease stitch in the middle. So basically from this point forward until I reach about 1 inch, 2 inches from my wrist, I'm going to alternate between the decrease row and then a normal row, decrease row and a normal row. So I will meet you back, and I'll also let you know how many rows I ended up doing of the alternating. I'll put that up on screen, and I will come back once I have reached about 2 inches from my wrist. So I've just finished my last row of the alternating a decrease row and then a normal row, and I ended up doing 17 rows of the decrease / normal row. And so I ended on a decrease row. I ended up doing 32 rows in total, and that was enough for the top of my arm to about 1 inch or 2 from my wrist. Once we've attached the panels all together, I will then make about a 2-inch cuff for each sleeve. And as you can see here, by decreasing we have created more of like a natural arm shape, which you don't have to decrease if you don't want to, if you want more of that oversized look, but it helps kind of create that natural shape for when we make the cuff, which will be like smaller as well. So once you have finished your final row, you're just going to want to chain 1 and fasten off like this. You're going to want to make a second sleeve, and then once I have made my second sleeve, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we attach all of the panels together. So yeah, I will come back once I have finished my second sleeve. So I've now finished both sleeves, and I've now got my 2 front and back panels together, and I've just pinned them with some stitch markers. And remember that the front and back panel currently are on the wrong side, so we're now going to attach the shoulder parts together. So you're going to grab your yarn. I'm just going to be using the same yarn that I used for the very last row. So I've got my orange yarn, and I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to start off with the left shoulder. Now, because I crochet from left to right, I'm going to be starting in the left corner, but if you're right-handed then you'll be starting in this corner. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker so that it makes it a bit easier to see. I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch of the front panel, and the first stitch of the back panel, so the corresponding one. So now you have both stitches on the hook. I'm going to place the slip knot on the hook. I'm going to pull the slip knot through both stitches like this to attach it, and then just chain one. So I'm now going to be making one single crochet into each stitch across, but we're going to be doing it through both stitches. So I'm going to insert the hook into the next stitch like this, and then into the next stitch of the back. So that's this one here. I'm going to weave this end in and just make a single crochet. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull through both loops, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then into the next stitch, insert the hook into the front panel, and then insert the hook into the next stitch of the back panel, yarn over, pull through both loops, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So I'm going to continue this all the way across. Okay, so once you finish your row, I'm just going to chain one and cut the yarn. Like that. And then I'm just going to repeat the exact same process but on this shoulder here, and then I'm just going to weave all these ends in, tuck them all away, and then once I finish that I'll come back and we will attach the sleeves. So now I have attached both of the shoulders together, we're now going to attach the sleeves. So you're going to want to flip your work, so your work would have been like this. You want to flip it now onto its side so that you have the shoulder here, the neck hole, and then the other shoulder here. So I'm just going to move this down. You want to take your sleeve and make sure that it is on the wrong side, and you want to make sure that the widest part of the sleeve is at the shoulder part, because remember we decreased to make it more comfortable for the bottom of the arm, so you want to make sure that that part is actually going to be at the bottom of the arm. So I'm just lining it up here. So I'm just going to line this up and make sure that it is central, and then the way you can do that is measure this. So the width of the bottom of this is about 16 inches, so I need to make sure that the about 8 inches is right here in the middle. Pin that with the stitch marker like that. So we're now going to attach the sleeve just like we attached the shoulders, with a single crochet across both through both panels. However, you'll notice that we're now working on the side of the front and back panel where there's not really any real stitches, so we are going to be working through like the like post of each double crochet stitch as best as we can. So I'm just going to lay this flat and then bring it up like this so that we can now see it a bit better. So if I just count back from the shoulder until the end here, how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I need to make sure that I stop at the 15th row from here to make it equal. So I'm going to start at the 15th row from the shoulder here, which is the I used black yarn for this row, so I'm starting here in that stitch. So just inserting my hook into that bit, and then also into the first stitch here, and then taking my yarn, again I'm using orange, just pulling through and then chaining one to attach. So I'm just going to make a single crochet into sort of the next space of the front panel and the next space of the back panel here, and then single crochet, and then again into the next. I'm going now into the orange row and then into the next stitch of the back panel and single crochet, and then I'm just going to kind of line that up and check that I'm happy with if it's still looking equal on both sides, and it is, so I'm just going to keep going single crochet into the next, into the next space, all the way up. So I'm just going to continue this all the way along, and I'm going to keep checking that it is looking all aligned up, and then I will meet you back at the end here. So I've just finished making all of my single crochets across both panels, and now to finish I'm going to chain 1 and then cut the yarn, pull through, and as you can see when we flip it over to the right side we have a nice seamless line here. So I'm now going to repeat this on the other sleeve. So you're now going to want to repeat the same thing on the other side for the sleeve, so line it up centrally so that the middle of the sleeve is at the top of the shoulder, and pin it with a stitch marker, and then just single crochet through both panels all the way across and then fasten off. So I will meet you back once I've done that, and then I will show you how to attach the side panels like with the sleeve. So I've now attached the sleeve to the shoulder part, and we're now going to be attaching the side panel and the side of the sleeve together. So there's two options for this. You can either start in the corner of at the bottom of the jumper, work up and then turn and work across, or you can start at the cuff of the arm, work down and then work across and then work down. Again, you want to make sure that you've still got everything inside out, and yeah, so I'm going to kind of flip the jumper so you can see it better. So because because I work from left to right, I'm going to be starting in the bottom part. Also you could start in here and work across, but then I'd kind of have to flip it this way. So I'm just going to start at the bottom of the jumper, so the hem. I'm going to insert my hook into the first sort of stitch I see, and then again the first stitch of the back panel. So we've got both stitches on the hook. I'm just going to lay this flat now. So as you can see, it's like a 90-degree angle. I'm going to be working across and then I'm going to be working up the sleeve, and it's basically the exact same thing we did to attach the sleeve to the shoulder. We're just single crocheting through both panels. So again, I'm just going to use orange, make a slip knot, and I'm just going to pull the slip knot through both stitches on the hook and then chain 1 to attach. So I'm now just going to basically make a single crochet all the way across. I think I make about 2 single crochets per row we did, because the height of a single crochet is smaller than the height of a double crochet, so about 2 single crochets equals a double crochet row. I hope that makes sense. So once I single crochet all the way across, once I reach this corner, I'm just going to make a single crochet kind of in that corner space through both stitches. So for me this is the a black row, and this is an orange row, so that's the corner, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way across up to the cuff, and then I'm just going to chain 1 to fasten off. And as I am single crocheting, I will also be weaving in these ends as I go, so I'll just be crocheting them into the work just to make it easier. So that's pretty much it. It's the exact same process that we did for the shoulder, but we're just basically going across, and then we're going to kind of turn the work and go up, and then the same applies for the other side, just attaching it in the same way, so going across and then up for the sleeve, or the opposite if you're going from the sleeve to the hem. So yeah, I will come back when that is all finished. So I've attached all of my panels together, and I've turned the jumper now so that everything is on the right side out. We're going to be doing the collar now, so I'm going to basically be making a decrease row. You don't have to do this if you're happy with the width of your collar, the neck hole I mean. If you're happy with how it's looking, you don't have to do a decrease. You can just do 1 single crochet into each space all the way around. But I'm going to be doing a decrease just because I want it to look a little bit more fitted. So I'm going to make a slip knot with my next colour. I'm just using a brown double knit yarn. I'm going to grab my hook, and I'm going to insert my hook into kind of the shoulder portion of the jumper, so just a space anywhere. I'm going to attach the slip knot, pull through, and then chain 1 to attach it. And the way that I'm going to decrease is I'm going to be making a single crochet into the next 2 spaces, and then I'm going to skip the next space and single crochet into the next 2 spaces, skip a space, and so on all the way around. If you want to make more decreases because you feel that your neck hole is too wide, then you could do a single crochet, skip, single crochet, skip. Or if you want to do decreases but you want to do them less often so it doesn't decrease as much as mine, you could do a decrease sort of every 4 stitches, every 5 stitches, whatever you want. So I'm going to make a single crochet into the next space that I see. It doesn't have to be like accurate, just make a single crochet. So that's 1, and then to the next space that I find, that's the 2nd. And so at this point I would now skip the next space that I see, so I'm going to make a single crochet into the next space, so that's 1, and then another into the next space, that's 2, and then I'm going to skip the next space here, and I'm going to make a single crochet into the next space, so that's 1 and 2, and then I'm going to skip, and then 1 and 2. So I'm going to continue this pattern all the way around the neck hole, and then I will meet you back once I have reached sort of the shoulder portion again, and where it gets to a point where I cannot make any more single crochets or skip anymore. So I will come back once I have reached this point here, and then I will show you the next step. So I've now reached the end of the neck hole, I've come all the way back around. And now to finish the round I'm going to skip the space where we attached the yarn, so there should be a V there where we attached it. I'm going to skip it and I'm going to slip stitch into the first single crochet stitch that we made. So it's this one right here. I'm going to insert the hook in, yarn over, pull through, and then just pull through, so slip stitch. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, and that is the neck portion all done. I'm now going to start the actual collar. So I've just placed 2 stitch markers around sort of the front of the neckline, and you want to make sure that these stitch markers are fairly close together because that is going to kind of give a realistic looking collar. However, if you make your collar and then you decide that actually you would like a bit more of a gap, then of course you can put your stitch markers a bit further away. And so I just eyeballed this, so I've left about 3 stitches in between each stitch marker, if that helps. So I'm going to grab the same colour yarn, which was the brown. I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to attach it in the stitch where the orange stitch marker is, so right here. I'm going to pull through and then chain 1 to attach. If you're right-handed, you will start where the pink stitch marker is, and then you will work clockwise, and I will be working anti-clockwise because I'm left-handed. So depending on how thick you want your collar to be will be depending on how many chains you make. For example, a chain of 10 is going to be a much thicker and longer collar than say a chain of 5. So again, it really depends on how thick of a collar you want. That will be how many chains you make. So I want to make a collar that is about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make a chain that is long enough for 1.5 inches. So I'm going to just start off with a chain of 8. So I've got my first chain because I attached it. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And I'm just going to line this up and check. So actually 8 chains is a little bit too big, so I'm going to take 1 chain away, so that's now 7 chains. Okay, so that is looking good. So 7 chains is looking good. So you want to make your amount of chains, and then you want to add an extra chain for the turning chain. So obviously now I'm going to be adding extra chains, that's now 8 chains. So for me, 8 chains was enough for 1.5 inches thick collar. So to start the collar, we are going to be doing half double crochets. You can do single crochets if you want, but I just like the look of the half double crochet for the collar a little bit better. So you're going to start by making a half double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So you're going to want to yarn over, insert the hook into the second chain, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So again, yarn over, we're going to insert the hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So I'm going to continue this into each stitch, each chain across. So yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So I'm going to continue this all the way. So now I have 7 half double crochets. So once you have completed a row where you will be going into the direction of the final row that we did around the neckline, so this brown line of single crochets that we did, if you're crocheting into in the direction of it, then that means that you will always need to do 2 slip stitches after you've completed your row. So as you can see, I've completed my row of half double crochets. I'm then going to slip stitch into the next stitch of the neckline. So just yarn over, pull through, and into the next stitch, repeat that, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through. Okay, and that completes the row in this direction. So for the next row, we're actually going to turn the work. So we're now working in the opposite direction, and we are going to yarn over. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches that we just slip stitched into, and we're going to start in that very first half double crochet that we made, or sorry, the last half double crochet of the previous row, which will now be the first half double crochet of this row. So skipping the slip stitches, and I'm going to go into the front loop. So as you can see here, you have these little V's. There's the front loop and there's the back loop. So we're going to go into the front loop only, like this, yarn over, pull up a loop as normal, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So it's like a half double crochet, but it's only in that front loop. So into the next stitch, yarn over, insert the hook into the front loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So now I'm going to do this into each stitch across. So I've just done my last half double crochet into the front loop. We're now going to turn the work. So we're going to turn the work, and we're going to make now for the third row a half double crochet into each stitch, but this time it will be in the back loop. So in the previous row it was the front loop, so it is technically the same loop we're going into, but this time it's called the back loop because it is the back loop of the V. So going into the first loop, and instead of picking up that front loop, I'm picking up that back loop, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And again into the next stitch, into the back loop, and I'm going to go all the way across. Okay, and then once you have reached your very last stitch, you are going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to make my first slip stitch and then my second slip stitch, and then that completes that row. So hopefully now you can kind of see that this nice ribbed effect is there. So I'm now going to continue to turn the work for the next row. Be a bit heavy because of all the material, but I'm now turning the work. I'm skipping those 2 slip stitches, and I'm going to make 1 half double crochet into the front loop of the next 7 stitches. So that's the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and last one, 7. For the next row I'm going to turn the work, and now I'm going to be making 1 half double crochet into the next 7 stitches into the back loop only. So I'm picking up that back loop, on over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook, then over, pull through all 3 loops. So I'm going into each back loop, making a half double crochet into each one. And now that I've reached the part where there is the brown single crochet row of, that we did, I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Okay, so basically the pattern is to turn the work, skip the 2 slip stitches and make a half double crochet across into the front loop only, into the next 7 stitches or however many stitches you have for your collar, and then again turn the work and make a half double crochet into the back loop only of the next 7 stitches, and then you'll make your 2 slip stitches. And you're going to want to continue this now all the way around until you reach your pink stitch marker. So I will come back once I have reached my pink stitch marker. So I'm now on my final row, so I'm just going to complete the final row. So I'm going to make a half double crochet into the back loop of each stitch all the way across. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the last 2 stitches. Now luckily my last 2 stitches are actually where the stitch marker is, but don't worry too much if your last 2 stitches are like just one over the stitch marker. This is just more as a guide. So I'm now just going to take the stitch markers out, and then I'm just going to chain 1, cut the yarn to fasten off. Okay, so that is the collar all done. So you can just weave in these ends, and then we're going to now move on to the cuff ribbing. So for the arm ribbing, we are basically going to be repeating the exact same process, but we're actually just going to join the ribbing back at the first row once we've reached the last row. So I'm going to take the brown colour again and make a slip knot. And I'm actually going to attach it at this like line where we attached the sleeve together. I'm going to attach it in the same space, so just in the stitch that is on that line, and I'm going to pull the slip knot through and then chain 1 to attach it, so that classes as our first chain, and then I'm going to make a chain of 7, so technically altogether a chain of 8. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the same process as before, I'm going to make a half double crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then a half double crochet into each chain across. Okay, and then once you have done that, you're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. That's 1 and that's 2. After the 2 slip stitches, I'm then going to turn the work and start the next row. And so for the next row I will be skipping the next 2 slip stitches and making 1 half double crochet into the front loop of the next 7 stitches. And then again I'm going to turn the work and I'm going to make 1 half double crochet into the back loop of the next 7 stitches, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Okay, so I'm just going to basically repeat the same process that we did for the collar all the way around the cuff of the sleeve, and you'll know to make your 2 slip stitches because that will be when you reach the side of the sleeve cuff. Okay, so when you're crocheting in the direction of the sleeve cuff, that is when you know you need to make your 2 slip stitches at the end. If you're crocheting outward, then obviously you don't need to make slip stitches. So I'm going to continue this all the way around the cuff, and then I'm going to come back at the very last stitch and I'm going to show you how you can attach these 2 panels together, because obviously we don't want a gap at the cuff, so we're going to be joining the 2 sort of sides together to connect it. So once you have finished your last row of the ribbing, you're then going to turn the work as if you're going to do the next row, and then you're going to join the panels together, so you are now working on the inside out like this. So I'll just do that again. So I've finished my last row, and then I'm going to turn the work this way so that I have like this part of the cuff on the outside, and then I'm going to match it so that this part of the cuff is on the outside, so that's basically like the wrong sides are on the outside. And then I'm going to skip the 2 slip stitches, and I'm going to go into the next stitch of this panel and the first stitch of the other panel. Okay, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch, and then into the next stitch of the first panel and the next stitch of the back panel and make a slip stitch, and I'm going to continue this all the way across. Okay, so when you flip it back round, it's nice and neat, and it's attached on both sides. So once you have finished that, you're just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and then weave all your ends in, and then I'm going to repeat the exact same process for the other cuff on the other side, on the other sleeve, and then it's actually the exact same process for the hem, except it's just, if you imagine it as one big sleeve, you would just attach it at the side and then make a chain of 8, or however thick you want your ribbing to be, and then you would crochet down the chain and then make 2 slip stitches, turn the work, and then crochet in the other direction, turn the work, crochet in this direction, and then 2 slip stitches, and alternate between those rows, remembering to crochet in the front and back loop all the way around. And then once you get to your first row, you'll then flip the panels so that the outside is facing, the wrong side is facing on the outside, and then you'll slip stitch through both sides and then chain 1 to fasten off. So it's the same process, but just for one like large hem. So I will come back when I have finished all of that, and then I will show you what it looks like once it's tried on. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, and I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any ideas of what you'd like me to make next, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!